All right. Well, in just over half an hour on another radio show, the bells of the Angelus will be rung. Well, RTE apparently have plans to revamp the Angelus and make it more accessible to other faiths, but not everybody's happy about it. And I'm joined now by Michael Nugent, who is the chairperson of Atheist Ireland. Well, predictably, you're opposed anyway.
Yeah, no problem with the idea of a pause for reflection. I think that's a good thing. But it shouldn't be associated with any particular religion or with atheism. We'd be just as opposed if they're promoting atheism. Now, what they're doing now, I think in fairness to RTE, they're trying to be inclusive. And they're saying let's do something that the visuals underneath it will include different people.
So you're not happy?
We're not happy with that. Actually, ironically enough, that's making things worse. Because what it's effectively saying is you can all be included under this Catholic call to prayer. And we don't want to be included under a Catholic call to prayer. We want to be included under something that respects everybody equally.
Anyway, I mean, I'm not saying that negatively, but
no, of course
like
we don't.
Of the groups, if there's Church of Ireland and this and this and this, you're the kind of only one who doesn't want to pray. So naturally,
no, we prefer to think.
No, but it would be difficult to get something at 6 o'clock which would include you. That's all I'm saying.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. What you could do is, you could do a number of things. You could have something that asks people to reflect about the wonder of the universe, the scale of the universe, regardless of where you think it comes from. You could ask people to think about community, about kindness, about empathy, about compassion, about being nice to each other. You could ask people to think about, and any number of things that would be inclusive of everybody and wouldn't be pre-evangelising for the Catholic Church.
All right, if you went to the Middle East or something, there'd be the fellow who does the call to prayer there, isn't that right?
That's right, yeah.
But of course, any atheist group probably isn't allowed there anyway. Yeah. But even allowing for that, you'd have the same views about that, presumably.
You would, but that's a theocracy, and also there, as well as having those, you might also get your hand cut off if you steal something, or you might get stoned to death for being...
Exactly.
So that we can aspire to higher than that.
Okay. So you're essentially against the idea of a call to prayer which is for one group and leaves out other groups. We're not chopping people's hands off, so we're a very open society to everybody. Atheists live happily cheek by jowl with Catholics and Church of Ireland and all the rest of it. So therefore you feel sure you're just as much Irish as the rest of it.
Let me give you an analogy, George, that you might appreciate as a sports fan. Let's say if you take... Do you remember back in the 70s when Dublin were doing really well in Gaelic? And there was this song out called Heffo's Army. Jacks are back. Let the railway end go barmy. Hill 16 has never seen the likes of Heffo's Army. Can you imagine if RTE Sports had decided then that they would start all their sports programmes with the Heffo's Army song and pictures of Hill 16 and the Dublin fans?
All right.
You'd say that's not really inclusive of everybody. And if they then replied, well, we'll make it a little more inclusive by singing Heffo's Army but having a couple of Cork fans in the picture, you'd realise that that's not appropriate. It's just a question of just being inclusive for everybody. There's another thing, actually, by the way, that I think it might put this in perspective in terms of just genuine community spirit and so on. After the referendum, when the referendum results were coming through in the George Bar, and everybody was cheering every time the results came through for yes, and then the Angelus came on, and initially a couple of people booed the Angelus, and then it was drowned out by a chorus of ole, 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 ole. So maybe they could replace it with that.
All right, and now my guest, by the way, is Michael Nugent, chairperson of Atheist Ireland, reacting to the news from RTE. They're revamping the Angelus to try and make it more inclusive. Now, since we last spoke, right, I've had a kind of regeneration of my faith, okay? So I don't think of the Angelus at all faith-wise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I think about God a bit more principally because I'm scared of dying and all that sort of stuff, right? And unlike you, now I'm expecting to be met with a fellow with a white beard, which you're not, okay?
Well, that should make you less afraid of dying then.
Yeah. But having said that, I don't see the Angelus at all. I see it as a coming together. I really do. Like, do you not see when you turn on the old telly we don't get much opportunity now here, but when you turn on telly at 6 o'clock, you'd see a farmer cutting the grass, and you'd see, somebody coming out a little doing the shopping, and they'd all pause. Like, are they not pausing for the kind of reflection you're talking about? No?
Well, you see, you don't notice it because you found God. And so you see it as everybody being included under your God. But hypothetically, let's take those images you're talking about of the farmers and the various people. Imagine those lovely pictures of those farmers posing for reflection, and the soundtrack over it is Richard Dawkins reading from The God Delusion. Would you feel the same then?
I'd feel very unhappy.
Well, there you go. That's how we feel. And RTE, by the way, in their
where does tradition stand? Like, I struggle with this quite a bit, I must say. That, like, we're not the Catholic country we once were, where we were very homogeneous. Like, everybody was a Catholic, everybody spoke English, and everybody was white. So it was pretty straightforward, like. Whereas now we're a totally different kind of country.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have been run out of town in 1950 odd. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't you? So it is a much more inclusive society. It's a much more open society. So a few bells at 6 o'clock shouldn't give you as much angst as it apparently does.
Well, yeah, you're right. We were a Catholic country. Now we're a pluralist country, but still with Catholic laws. So we still have the Catholic Church running 90% of our schools. We still have a religious oath for president and Taoiseach and
but
judges.
Obama took a religious oath.
Well, that's a different situation. They've actually the opposite situation in America, where the oath isn't in the act, but they say it by tradition. So, but
that's my point.
Over there.
Tradition, the tradition of Catholicism in this country, of faith of our fathers, and the hedge schools and the penal laws, and
Magdalene laundries and symphysiotomy and the church covering up scandals, which has just been admitted today by Cardinal Brady, that they deliberately covered them up in order to protect the reputation of the church. That's the tradition that a lot of people see when they hear the Angelus bells.
But a lot of people don't. For every person abused by the Magdalene laundry, there might well have been 10, 100, 500 who were cared and looked after by nuns. I mean,
but that's a low ethical standard for an organisation that claims to be acting on behalf of the all-benevolent creator of the universe, that we only rape some of them. Yeah,
but get back to the point. The tradition is it's been a Catholic country since 431, I think he arrived. Patrick, not Patricia. Patrick arrived in 431. And since then, we've been this kind of Catholic country. So therefore, at 6 o'clock, there's a kind of recognition of this is our tradition, our past, but we're including everybody. So the fella cutting the hay, the dame shopping in Lidl, and all these kind of bits of it, they're included.
Well, why do we have
none of them are on their knees with rosary beads.
Well, why then, in terms of if we're going to be celebrating tradition, why don't we play God Save the Queen every day to celebrate the tradition of the time that we were ruled by Britain?
But that was a time, that was only
that was pretty long. It's the only time the island of Ireland was ever politically united was under British rule. So why don't we celebrate that? It's obvious why we don't, because it doesn't reflect modern Ireland, and neither does the Angelus. And in fact, one thing I should say is RTE have replied to us by letter today, which is just this afternoon. And while they don't seem to appreciate some of the nuances of the position we're taking, they have said that they will consider renaming the Angelus. They're saying they will consider whether the title is well, they haven't said, but they said they will take soundings to consider whether
Ding Dong Bell.
It's probably as good as any.
No,
they will consider whether the title is appropriate for today's
Angelus,
Ireland.
Michael.
The title, the Angelus. Yeah, they're wondering whether they could get a title that could reflect what they say that it is,
Michael,
which is a pause for reflection for everybody.
Michael, we're keeping the Angelus, okay?
You're keeping it. Is that on Newstalk?
Well, no. On
so you're
Ireland,
speaking for RTE.
Ireland, we're keeping the Angelus.
I'll tell you, if we take it off RTE and you can have it on your show.
I'd happily have it. I'd take it on board in a heartbeat.
Well, that's the problem solved then, isn't it? You contact RTE, say that you'll take over the Angelus for weekdays and we'll sort it out with them for the weekends.
All right. Michael Nugent, who certainly is on a different view to me, but that's what debate's about, the chairperson of Atheist Ireland.